All right, let's do a new series. I told you this one was going to be a little more short and sweet. No more 9 or 10 movies in a row. We're going to do 3 this time with the Sorority House Massacre 1, 2, and 3. I am a huge fan of 2 and 3. It had been a while since I had seen 1, so let's get into it, shall we? I think what I was surprised about revisiting this is I don't remember this one being so drawn out and kind of slow and boring at times. I was actually kind of surprised, but we'll get into that. Now, this movie borrows some elements for sure from Halloween and A Nightmare on Elm Street and some others. I know that some people are like, oh, it's just a straight up Halloween ripoff. No, I disagree. But there's Halloween elements in it, absolutely. And I will be addressing some of those. But in the opening, we have a girl who's in a dream sequence, and when she walks up to the house, there's like 3 little kids playing outside, and they talk to her about the house and this and that. It was very reminiscent of, the Nightmare on Elm Street series. And when she walks inside, there's actually some fairly eerie imagery in there. There's a bunch of kids sitting, like a bunch of people sitting at the table, and they have like these porcelain faces, it looks like these like glass masks or whatever those are. We don't really get to see them very long. They're only kind of just like there and gone in like a second, but it was creepy. And then on the table, like the knife is in place of the butter knife. It's all set up on the table. I liked that shot as well. And then the blood is like raining down from the ceiling. And later in the movie, she sees the killer in the mirror in her room, and there's like a knife that comes through the mirror, and blood starts to drip down. And that happens kind of throughout the movie as well, as like the painting, or is it a painting or a picture, something like that, some artwork on the wall. Like there's like 4 kids on it, and they all start bleeding just randomly. So I always really like that kind of stuff. So it does have some of that. Now, some of the things that I noticed that they obviously took from Halloween here is, number one, while she's in class and the teacher's doing her whole little speech, she looks outside and she sees the killer. That's one obvious one. Another is the killer escapes from a mental institution and jumps in a station wagon and drives off to go after her. And another one, which doesn't obviously happen until part 2, but it ends up being his sister, and she doesn't even remember it until she goes into regressions and starts thinking about her past. Now, when I say all those things, you're like, dude, how is this not ripping off Halloween? It is. I'm not saying it didn't borrow a bunch of elements, but they're kind of sporadically laced in. And the rest of the movie, like, for instance, they have a psychic connection. Reminds me of Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 3. A couple other movies, but that was one I watched recently, so that's the freshest one in my mind. Michael and them don't have a psychic link. Now, Jamie Lloyd in the end of part 4 and almost all of part 5 shares a psychic link with Michael, which is yet another thing we don't really talk about all that much. Like, we get into the Man in Black stuff about Halloween's later sequels and the Curse of Thorn and all that. We've talked about that to death, but I don't really ever see anyone talking all that much about the whole Jamie Lloyd being connected to Michael thing. I don't want to get off on too much of a Halloween rant here, but I was just kind of thinking about that. Like, I don't really ever hear anyone talk about that psychic link that they share much. And I don't feel like it's retained through part 6 once she's pregnant and all that. But we're not here to talk about Halloween 4, 5, and 6, are we? I just thought, like, this movie was made before Halloween 4 and 5, so it couldn't have taken that element from it. I like when the guy's telling the girl, he's trying to tell her this very interesting scientific study, which it technically is absolutely, that they take kittens and they separate from the mother, and they're like 1,000 miles apart, and they kill each kitten one by one, and the mom screams out. I don't know if this is a real study, but her reaction's like the same thing. I'd be like, they killed the fucking kittens? Why are you telling me this horrible story? Jesus, I don't care what the scientific study is. I don't care if it cures fucking cancer. I don't want to hear about no killing of kittens. Jesus Christ. And of course, I mean, I think what this series is known best for, and probably why I'm a huge fan of it, is just the gratuitous, especially in like 2 and 3. The gratuitous, the gratuitous fucking amount of cleavage and boobs and naked tits, the whole shebang. And there's like a good couple minute scene of these friends that are just trying on clothes and like dancing to the music. Kind of reminds me of that scene in Valley Girl when they're all hanging out in the room and they're trying on clothes. But yeah, it is just only there to show the majority of the cast naked, which, as I said, I'm never going to complain about, but I just find it funny that there wasn't any actual reason to do it. It's just like, well, let's go in this girl's room and try on all her clothes, and then just film us for like 3 straight minutes of us taking these clothes on and off and showing our tits over and over and over again. And I was like, this is the best part of the movie. And I love when the killer escapes from, you know, the mental institution that he's in, and when he runs up to the fence, he hits the top of the fence, and you can clearly see there's barbed wire at the top of the fence. But then in the next shot, when it's showing him at the top, there's no barbed wire, and he just jumps right over like nothing. I just thought it was very odd that they would get a close-up. I guess because they're seeing the close-up, we're supposed to be like, oh, like at least it's somewhat protected. And then when they cut back, I don't know if they're like, by that point our brains will be shut off and we'll just fill in the blanks of what it was there. But I noticed it instantly. I was like, wait, wasn't there barbed wire like a second ago? And then the girl's telling them that she remembers that there's a knife in the fireplace, and then they go and look, and it's like, you know, one of the girls is like, okay, guys, you're setting me up. But I think everyone in the room would have been like, okay, so you put that in there an hour ago, and now you're making this up. Like, because some of them are like, wowed. And I'm like, really? This wouldn't be the hardest thing to plant. So I wouldn't be that. But anyway, he goes and he grabs it, and it's hot because it's been by the fire the whole time. He's like, oh my God. And he like throws it up in the air and like sticks in the table. And then it's so hot he can't even touch it. And then they're talking for like 30 seconds before the girl goes and just grabs it and is playing with it and is like, what? And I'm like, it cooled down that fast? Man, that's some fast cooling metal right there. And I feel like where this film really is bogged down and where it really just kind of slows to a halt is all the regression stuff. Not the dreams, but just when her friends are talking to her about like her dreams and what they mean and the phallic meaning of the knife and her losing the marbles. The marbles joke was okay. But then like once she finds the knife, they're sitting there talking for like 10 minutes to this girl about, you know, what she may or may not be going through. And it's like, that may have worked in a serious drama where people can act and there's good writing and whatnot, but there's none of those things here. So it's just a chore to sit through, and it really, really fucked up the pace. Another big problem I have here, and this is a slasher movie. What do I love in slasher movies? What do I always say? I want gore and tits and cool kills. I got the tits, me flipping you off, but I don't got the gore, and I don't got cool kills. So, and I got some boring, dragged out scenes. So I got one of the 3, and that one is as good as it is. It's just not enough to make this movie as fun as it should be. And I feel like the next film in the series got that more right. The guy's reaction, he's out in the teepee, you know, trying to fuck his girlfriend, and then the guy comes in, he slashes through the teepee, and he actually just watches the guy stab his girlfriend in the chest, and then he's like, are you okay, Terry? Or Tracy? I think it's Tracy, right? Tracy? Yeah. Tracy, are you okay? Like, he's like talking to her, and the killer's like right in front of him, and the knife's in her chest. And he's just like right in her face, like, are you? And the guy's sitting right there. It's so stupid. And then he runs in the house, and he's naked, and the girls are like, oh my God, you're cut, what's going on? And he's like, someone killed Tracy. And they're like, what? Like, you better not be joking. And he's like, I'm serious. And they're like, oh, well, we better call the police. The acting, oh my God. That's I don't mind that stuff. I actually like shitty acting, so it added to the charm. But a lot of the boring scenes were killing it for me. But anyway, I watched 2 tonight as well, so let's get on over to that.